She should not have asked me that while she was standing in my doorway, wearing my dead father's old sweatshirt. "Is there room in your bed?" That was what she said. Not, "Can I stay the night?" Not, "Can I sleep here because I'm scared?" Not even the safer lie people use when they want something without naming it. She looked straight at me and asked the one question that made every wall inside me rise at once. There was rainwater still clinging to the ends of her hair. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady, too steady, like she had already made a choice and was only waiting to see whether I would ruin it. I could have said no. Maybe I should have. Because a bed is never just a bed when you live alone long enough. It becomes the one place nobody touches. The one place that still belongs to your grief, your fear, your silence. And so I looked at her, felt my chest go tight, and said the most dangerous truth I had said in years. "Yes, but if you sleep beside me tonight, I don't think I'll want you to leave again." And the worst part was, I meant it. So why was a girl I barely knew looking at me like forever was exactly what she had come here for. My name is Marcus, and before Lily Harper knocked on my door, I had spent 7 years making sure nobody needed me enough to stay. I was 25, a mechanic with rough hands, an old house, and a life so quiet, it could feel like punishment if I thought about it too hard. Most days I worked at a garage in town until my back hurt and my shirt smelled like oil. Most nights I came home, heated whatever frozen thing was in the freezer, and went out to the garage behind the house to work on my dad's old Ford pickup. And that truck should have been junk. Half the body was rust. The seats were cracked. The engine fought me every step of the way. But it had been my father's, and after he and my mom died, there were not many things left that still felt like them. So I kept fixing it, little by little. Like if I could bring that truck back, maybe I could hold off losing the rest. The house had belonged to them too. Small place, old place. More memory than comfort. I had inherited it at 18 along with bills I was too young to understand, and a quiet so heavy it settled into the walls. I never changed much. Their pictures still hung where they had always hung. Their mugs still sat in the cabinet. My mother's blue one with the chipped handle, my father's black one with the faded fishing logo. I never used either. And some people move on by clearing things out. I stayed alive by leaving things where they were. That was my life until late one September night, when somebody knocked on my front door hard enough to make me straighten up from the fender I had been sanding. I remember checking the clock first, 11:47. Nobody came out to my place that late. Nobody came out at all unless something was broken. The rain had been brutal for hours. I could hear it hammering the roof of the garage and running down the gutters in thick, angry streams. I wiped my hands on a rag and stood still for a second, listening. Then the knock came again. I went through the side yard, into the house, and down the hallway. I did not swing the door open like an idiot. Living alone teaches caution fast. I looked through the peephole first and saw only dark water, and in the shape of someone standing too close to the porch light. When I opened the door a few inches, I saw her. She looked my age, maybe younger by a year or two. Long dark hair soaked flat. Jacket clinging to her shoulders. Jeans dark with rain. She was shivering hard enough that I could see it in her jaw. "I'm sorry," she said. "I know this is insane." She kept both hands where I could see them. That mattered. People do not think about things like that, but I did. "What happened?" I asked. She glanced behind her first. Not dramatic, not fake, just fast. Like she wanted to make sure the road stayed empty. "I got a ride with the wrong person," she said. "He started saying things. I told him to stop. He pulled over and made me get out." I looked past her into the rain. No headlights, no engine sound, and just wet black road and trees moving in the wind. "I've been walking for over an hour," she said. "I saw your light." There are moments when your life splits without asking permission. You do one small thing, and the next months of your life become something else. For me, it was stepping aside. "Come in," I said. "Just for the night. You're freezing." Relief crossed her face so fast it hurt to see. "Thank you." I locked the door behind her. That was not fear of her. That was fear of whoever had made her knock on a stranger's door in the middle of the night. Water pooled under her shoes on the entry rug. She looked down at it like she was ashamed to be making a mess. "It's fine," I told her. "Stay there. I'll get towels." When I came back, I gave her 2 towels and an old sweatshirt and a pair of sweatpants I wore when I was 18, and skinnier than I was now. She took them with both hands like I had handed her something fragile. "Bathroom's down the hall," I said. "Yeah, you can change. I'll make tea." She gave a small nod. "Okay." The strange thing was how natural it felt once I had decided not to leave her outside. Not easy, not relaxed, but simple in a way that surprised me. Kettle, mugs, tea bags from the back of the pantry. My hands knew what to do while my head tried to keep up. I almost reached for my mother's blue mug, out of habit. I stopped myself and took down 2 plain ones instead. When she came back, her wet clothes were folded over her arm. My sweatshirt swallowed her whole. The sleeves covered half her hands. Her hair was still damp around her face. And without the rain and fear filling the doorway, I finally got a real look at her. Blue eyes, freckles, tired in a way that went deeper than one bad night. "I'm Lily," she said. "Marcus." We sat across from each other at the kitchen table, both holding hot mugs. The house had not had another person in it that late at night in a long time. I kept noticing small things, the sound of her breathing, the way she warmed her fingers against the ceramic before she drank, the fact that the room did not feel as empty with someone else in it. She told me she was a senior at the University of Oregon, art major, painting. She said it like she expected me to laugh. I did not. Then she told me about her family in short pieces, like she did not want to hear too much of it herself. Money, rules, plans already made for her. And the kind of life where every choice comes with an audience. "So you ran," I said. She smiled, but it was sad. "For one night, yes. I should have kept it at that, safe, polite. A warm drink and a couch, and a ride to town in the morning. Instead, we kept talking. Not about anything huge at first. Classes, cars. Why old things are harder to throw away than broken ones. She asked about the truck in the garage. I told her it had been my dad's. She did not say she was sorry right away the way most people do. She waited. That made me tell her the rest. My parents died when I was 18. Her expression changed, but not into pity. That was what made me keep going. "Drunk driver crossed the line on Highway 126, I said. "Head on." She lowered her mug slowly. "And you stayed here alone?" "Yeah." "For 7 years?" I shrugged. "Oh, somebody had to pay the bills." The kitchen went quiet after that. Not awkward, just full. Then she looked toward the hallway, then back at me. "You don't have to give me your room," she said softly. "The couch is more than enough." That should have settled it. It should have ended right there. But something had shifted in the house already. I could feel it. That strange, dangerous feeling of being seen in a place where I had spent years becoming invisible. I told her she could take the couch. She nodded. I got her a blanket and pillow and left her there while I went to my room. But I did not sleep. I lay on top of the covers, staring at the ceiling, listening to rain hit the roof, and wondering why the sound of another person breathing in the next room felt more frightening than all my years of being alone. And then, sometime after midnight, my bedroom door opened a few inches. I pushed up on one elbow and saw her standing there in the dark, one hand still on the frame, my sweatshirt hanging off one shoulder. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I tried. Tried what? Sleeping out there. She swallowed. "I can't." I sat up fully then. "Why?" Her eyes did not leave mine. "Because this is the first place I've felt safe in a long time," she said. "And right now I really don't want to be alone." That was when she asked it. "Is there room in your bed?" And that was the moment everything inside me began to change. I stared at her for what felt like too long. Not because I did not want her there, because I wanted it too much. That was the part that scared me. She was standing in my doorway with wet hair, bare feet, and trust in her eyes. And all I could think was how easy it would be to lie to both of us if I answered too fast. So I swung my legs off the bed and stood up, keeping a full arm's length between us. "If you stay in here," I said, "nothing happens unless you want it. And if all you want is sleep, that is all this is." Her shoulders dropped a little, like she had been bracing for the wrong kind of answer. "Sleep is all I'm asking for," she said. I nodded once. "Then yes, there's room." I slipped under the blanket carefully, like she was afraid of taking up too much space. I turned off the lamp and lay down on the far edge of the mattress, staring into the dark. There was still a full stretch of bed between us, but it felt like the room had changed shape anyway. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then she said very quietly, "Oh, thank you for making this feel safe." Nobody had ever thanked me for that before. I swallowed and looked at the ceiling. "You don't have to thank me for basic decency." "Maybe not," she said, "but I still want to." The rain kept hitting the roof in slow, steady waves. Somewhere in the house, old pipes clicked in the walls. Her breathing started to even out after a few minutes, and I told myself that was good. That was the whole point. Then I felt it. Not her grabbing for me, not anything like that. Just the lightest pressure against my arm. She had shifted in her sleep until her hand rested against the blanket near mine. Such a small thing. It should not have mattered. But I had lived alone so long that gentle contact felt almost unbearable. I did not move closer. I did not take her hand. I just stayed there, wide awake, a feeling like something old and frozen inside me had heard a sound from far away and lifted its head. By morning, she was already gone from the bed. For one sharp second, panic hit me before I heard movement in the kitchen. I got up and found her standing by the counter, with her hair pulled back, pouring coffee into 2 mugs like she had been there before. She had changed back into her own clothes, though they were still a little damp at the seams. My sweatshirt was folded neatly over the chair. "I hope that's okay," she said, lifting the pot slightly. "I found filters after some digging." "You found them better than I do," I said. She smiled, and something in my chest eased. We ate toast and eggs at the kitchen table. Nothing fancy. Nothing that should have felt important. But it did. She told me more about school then. Not the polished version, the real one. How her father had already lined up internships she never asked for. How her mother talked about painting like it was a phase she would laugh about later. How every room back home felt too clean to breathe in. "They act like my life is a business plan," she said, staring down into her coffee. "Every step already decided, every mistake already unacceptable." "And hitchhiking was your answer to that?" Her mouth twitched. "It was a bad answer. It was a reckless answer." She looked up at me then. "You sound mad." "I am mad." "Because I showed up here?" "No." I leaned back and met her eyes. "Because somebody put you out on the road at night, and you had to end up at a stranger's door." Her face changed at that, not into fear, into something softer. "And no one said it like that before," she murmured. "Like what?" Like the bad thing was what happened to me, not what I did wrong. I looked away first. Well, that seems obvious. She held on to that silence for a second, like it meant more to her than I understood. After breakfast, I drove her toward campus in my truck. The road was still slick, the sky pale and washed out after the storm. She sat with both hands around the paper cup of coffee I had poured into a travel mug. Every few minutes, I caught her looking out the window like she was trying to memorize the route. At a red light, she glanced at the dashboard and laughed softly. What? You still have a cassette adapter in here. It works. That truck is older than both of us. It has character. It has tetanus. I looked at her then and she was grinning. A real grin. Full one. I laughed before I could stop myself. That surprised both of us. When I pulled over near campus, she did not open the door right away. She looked down at her hands, then back at me. I know this is a weird question, she said. But if I wanted to see you again when I'm not soaking wet and half panicked, would that be strange? I should have said yes. I should have protected the order of my life and sent her back into hers. Instead, I heard myself say, You can come by on Saturday if you want. I'll be in the garage most of the day. She studied my face like she was checking whether I meant it. Okay, she said. Saturday. She got out, then leaned back in through the open door. And Marcus? Yeah? I wasn't asking for your bed because I wanted something from you. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. I know. Her eyes held mine another second. I just wanted you to know I knew the difference. Then she shut the door and walked away. Saturday came and I told myself not to expect anything. By noon, I had checked the driveway 3 times without admitting that was what I was doing. At 1:13, she knocked. Not late night desperate this time, calm, dry. Wearing jeans, boots, and a dark green sweater with a white bakery box in her hands. I brought donuts, she said. I looked at the box, then at her. That doesn't seem like a fair trade. For what? For making me think about you all week. The words came out before I could catch them. Her eyes widened just a little. Then she smiled slowly. Good. Because I was hoping the feeling was mutual. That should have made things simple. It did not. Because after that, she started coming back. At first it was one Saturday, then most weekends. Sometimes she brought donuts, sometimes tea. Once she brought a small tin of homemade cookies from a roommate, who apparently baked when she was stressed. She sat on an old stool in the garage while I worked on the truck and asked questions like she actually cared about the answers. What does that belt do? Why does that sound bad? How can you tell when something is worth fixing? That last question stayed with me. How can you tell? She asked one afternoon, watching me hold a rusted part in my hand. I shrugged. You decide if the damage is the whole story. Her face went still for a moment. Then she said, That sounds like it's about more than cars. Maybe. After that, I showed her how to change a tire and how to hand me the right wrench without me asking twice. How to tell when an engine sound meant trouble and when it just meant age. She learned fast. She was not afraid to get dirty either. By the end of one afternoon, she had grease on her cheek and one black streak across the side of her hand. You missed a spot, I told her. Where? I stepped closer and stopped. My thumb lifted halfway before I remembered myself. Her breath caught. So did mine. Neither of us moved. Then she took the rag from my hand, wiped her cheek herself, and smiled like she knew exactly what had almost happened. That night after she left, I found one of her earrings on the workbench beside a socket set. Small silver thing. Nothing special. I put it in the kitchen drawer instead of pretending I had not seen it. By the 3rd week, As she knew where I kept the tea, by the fourth, she stopped waiting for me to invite her to sit at the kitchen table. She just belonged there in a way that made no sense and too much sense at the same time. She noticed things too, that I never touched my parents' mugs, that I always worked later when the house felt too quiet, that I kept an extra plate in the dish rack like I was expecting someone I would never admit I was waiting for. One Sunday evening, she stood in front of the living room shelf, holding my mother's blue mug with both hands. "I washed this," she said, "but I put it back exactly where it was." My chest tightened. She looked at me carefully. "I'm not trying to move into your grief, Marcus." The room went still. "I know," I said. "No," she said softly. "I need you to hear me. I'm not here to replace anything. I don't think you should have to live like love only exists in the past." That line should not have hit me as hard as it did, but it did. Because right when I was starting to believe I could survive wanting her, she stepped closer, lowered her voice, and asked the one question I had been dreading in silence. "What happens when my father finds out where I've been?" And just like that, every good thing between us felt one phone call away from being torn open. The answer was, he did not find out from me. He found out because people like Richard Harper never really stop watching what belongs to them. That was Lily's word for it one night in my kitchen. Belongs. She said it quietly, like saying it too loud would make it more true. I stood at the counter, drying plates while she sat at the table, with her sketchbook open but untouched. She had come straight from campus, still wearing the green sweater I had started thinking of as hers, even though I had no right to. Her hair was tied back. Her face looked tired in a way I had learned to read. "You think he's tracking you?" I asked. She nodded. "Maybe not every second, but enough. You're 22. "I know that." "Then tell him to stop." That made her laugh once, but there was no humor in it. "You still think money only buys things," she said. "It doesn't. It buys reach. It buys people who call him back. It buys pressure." I set the plate down harder than I meant to. "Then let him come." Her eyes lifted to mine. "You say that now?" "I mean it now." She shut the sketchbook. "Marcus, if he comes here, he won't just insult you. He'll try to make you doubt yourself. He's good at that." I almost said he was too late. The truth was, men like her father had been living in my head long before I ever met him. Men with clean hands and expensive coats, and the kind of confidence that comes from never wondering if the mortgage will clear. I already knew what someone like that would see when he looked at me. A mechanic. A rundown house. A man who still talked to the dead through objects he could not throw away. What I did not know was whether Lily saw any of that too. I dried my hands and turned toward her. "If he comes," I said. "He doesn't decide what this is." Her face softened. "No, we do." That should have been enough to steady me. It was not. Because wanting someone is one thing, and believing they will stay when the world gets loud is something else. The next week passed in pieces. She came when she could. I worked too much when she could not. We met in the in-between like two people building a bridge from opposite sides and hoping the middle would hold. One Thursday night, she brought dinner in a paper bag and found me in the garage staring at the truck without touching it. "You've been standing there for 10 minutes, she said. "I'm thinking." "That usually looks more productive." I looked at her and tried to smile, but it did not land. She set the bag down and came closer. "Talk to me." So I did, which was still new enough to feel dangerous. "I keep waiting for this to stop feeling temporary," I said. "And every time it starts to feel real, I hear his voice in my head." She did not ask which voice. Now she knew. "What does it say?" she asked. I laughed once, dry and sharp. Take your pick. That I'm not enough. That this is a phase for you. That one day you'll wake up and realize I'm just the safe little rebellion you tried on before going back to your real life. She flinched like I had slapped something honest out into the air. Is that what you think I'm doing? I don't know. I hated how raw my own voice sounded. Some days I believe you. Some days I remember I've wanted things before and the wanting never helped. She stood there very still. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a folded canvas board wrapped in brown paper. I wasn't going to show you yet, she said. I wanted it finished first. She handed it to me. When I peeled the paper back, I forgot how to breathe for a second. It was my house, and not the tired version I saw every day, not the peeling paint or the sag in the porch step or the cracked trim around the windows. She had painted it at dusk with warm light spilling through the kitchen window and the garage door half open. The place looked worn, yes, but alive, kept, chosen. Home. At the bottom corner, near the porch, she had painted one small detail almost too easy to miss, a yellow light over the front door. The light she had seen the night she knocked. I painted it the way it felt to me, she said. I kept staring at it. Nobody's ever looked at this place like that before. She stepped closer. That's because nobody else understands what it means to be let in. I lowered the painting slowly. Lily, I'm not trying you on, she said. I'm choosing you. But I need you to stop waiting for me to become someone else. There are words that feel like mercy when they hit you. That was one of them. I set the painting down with more care than I used on most things in my life and pulled her into me. She came without hesitation, hands gripping the back of my shirt, face pressed against my chest. I'm trying, I said into her hair. I know. No, I mean really trying. I've spent years thinking loss is something you avoid by staying empty. She leaned back enough to look at me. And I'm tired. Something changed in her face then. Not surprise, relief. Like she had been waiting for me to say the one honest thing fear could not dress up as pride. That night she stayed. Not because she needed rescue. Not because the weather was bad. Not because she had nowhere else to go. She stayed because when I asked if she wanted to, she said yes. We moved slowly. The way people do when they understand the moment means more than the moment. Every touch was asked for. Every kiss was answered. Nothing rushed, nothing taken. The bed did not feel haunted that night. It felt witnessed. Later, she lay with her head on my chest while the house settled around us with its usual creaks and little sounds. Do you ever think they'd hate how little I know about fixing anything? She murmured. I looked down at her. Who? Your parents. I almost laughed. My dad would hand you the wrong wrench on purpose just to see if you noticed. She smiled against me. And your mom? My mom would feed you first and ask questions later. The room went quiet after that. Then Lily said very softly, I wish I'd known them. So did I. But for the first time in years, the thought did not rip me open. It just sat there, sad and gentle. By Saturday morning, the illusion of peace was over. I heard the car before I saw it. Smooth engine, expensive, unhurried in a way that felt arrogant. Lily had gone to shower. I stepped onto the porch and watched the black sedan stop at the curb, like the road had been waiting for it. Richard Harper got out in a dark coat, with a face already arranged for disapproval. He looked at the house, then at me, then back at the house, like confirming his worst opinion had facts. So, he said, this is where she's been disappearing to. I stayed on the porch. You can leave. He ignored that. Men like him heard refusal as a delay, not an answer. I gave you a few weeks to enjoy the fantasy, he said. That was generous. I laughed once. I'm generous. Yes. My daughter has a habit of mistaking simplicity for virtue. His gaze swept over the yard. But she gets over things. The old version of me might have swung first or gone silent. Instead, I stepped down one stair and said, "You don't get to talk about her like she's an investment." His mouth tightened. "And you don't get to confuse need with love." That one landed, because it was aimed well. Before I could answer, the front door opened behind me. Lily came down onto the porch, still damp-haired, her expression set so hard, it almost looked calm. "Don't," she said to her father. He turned. "Get your things." "No," one word, clean and final. His eyes narrowed. "Lily." She came to stand beside me, not behind me. That mattered more than I can explain. "I'm finishing my degree," she said. "In art, not business. I'm getting my own job, my own apartment if I have to. But I'm done letting you treat my life like a merger." His face changed then, not softer, sharper. "You would throw away everything for this?" She took my hand. Not dramatic, not trembling, certain. "I'm not throwing anything away," she said. "I'm keeping the part of me you never got to own." He looked at our joined hands, then at me, like he was searching for the insult that would do the most damage. I surprised us both by speaking first. "You asked what future I can offer her." My voice was steady. "I can't offer her money or connections. I can't offer her a polished life. But I can offer her a home where she does not have to earn the right to breathe." Silence hit the yard. Lily's grip on my hand tightened. Her father looked at her for a long second, then he said, cold and clipped, "If you walk away from this family, do not expect to come back when reality disappoints you." I felt her inhale. Then she answered with the clearest voice I had ever heard from her. "Reality already disappointed me. That's why I stopped living yours." He stood there another moment, maybe waiting for fear to show up in her face. It did not. So he left. No blessing, no dramatic threat. Just one more man walking away because control had failed him. The sound of his car disappeared down the road. Only then did Lily let out the breath she had been holding. I turned to her. "You okay?" Tears filled her eyes so fast, it broke me a little. "No," she said honestly, "but I will be." I pulled her to me right there on the porch, and this time when she shook, it was not from fear. And it was from the cost of telling the truth and surviving it. Weeks later, she brought over more of her things. Not all at once. A lamp, a box of books, 2 sweaters, paintbrushes in an old jar. A plant she swore would not die if I forgot to water it. I made room for her easel in the garage beside my toolbox. She painted while I worked. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we did not. The quiet between us was no longer empty. It had a pulse. Now we argued too. About bills. About how I shut down when I got scared. About how she still answered her mother's calls with that old, careful voice. But we stayed in the room. We stayed in the conversation. We stayed. That was the difference. One evening in early spring, we sat on the porch steps watching the yard soften into green. She leaned her head on my shoulder, and I looked through the front window at the warm kitchen light, the mugs in the cabinet, the life moving around inside the house that had once felt like a grave with walls. "Funny," I said. "What?" "The first night you came here, you asked if there was room in my bed." She smiled. "And you answered like a man proposing to a fire hazard." I laughed. "Maybe." Then I took her hand and said the thing I understood now more than I had that night. "There was room in the bed," I told her. "I just didn't know yet there was room in my life. She looked at me for a long second, eyes bright and steady. "There is now," she said. Yes, there was. Because forever is not built in one night, one kiss, or one brave answer at a front door. It is built in the smaller thing, the harder thing, the holier thing. She stayed. And then I did too.